I'm going to give you an overview of the personal branding process because it is a process that you undergo. We're also going to talk about what exactly a personal brand is, and then 3 steps to take in order to build your personal brand. Your personal brand is not a mystery. It's not that hard to understand. So let's get going with this. Let's first talk about the process. Okay, so what exactly is a brand anyway? Whoops, I went past it. Okay, we define it, and I follow and we'll be talking about this in a minute. I follow the REACH formula for personal branding, and that defines personal branding as a unique promise of value. It's unique because it's unique to you. No one else on LinkedIn has the same brand. Nobody else in the world has the same brand. We are all unique. It's a promise because number one, it's your brand promise. In other words, it's what you promise to deliver every time. It's what you always bring to the table. And it's also a promise because it's authentic. And authenticity is so rare these days that we really notice it when it happens. I know you've been through this experience where you've been in a room or at a party where it felt like everybody was pretending to be somebody else. And no, I'm not talking about your Halloween party, but where no one really seems authentic. And then someone who just wears their brand, their authenticity easily, walks in the room and everyone notices. Everyone notices that person because they are so authentic. And then finally, it's a value because you always deliver value, right? I don't even have to tell you that. I know you do it. So let's look at the process of how to do this. So first, let's just talk a little bit about the history of personal branding. Let me change my glasses here for a second. Okay. So this handsome guy you're seeing right here, his name is William Arruda. And William is the founder of Reach Communications, and now the founder of a second business. But I studied personal branding under William, and I will tell you, the man is brilliant. I learned so much. I worked with him, I worked under him, and it was just a fabulous experience. The first time I ever heard of personal branding was I think it was actually in the late 60s or maybe early 70s. I can't see the date on that. Or maybe it was the early 60s. Anyway, no, no, it couldn't have been the early 60s. It was sometime in the 70s or 80s that this came out. And it was an article written by Tom Peters, who was the business guru of the day. You can still find his books everywhere. And he wrote an article for what was then a brand new magazine, Fast Company. And the article was titled A Brand Called You. If you don't move up, or it was, let's see, Tom Peters, well, anyway, but the whole point of it was to get hired, you needed to move up and you needed a personal brand to do that. Because if you didn't have your brand to promote, you were going to be beaten by all the people who knew the right brand attributes and were projecting them. Okay, so this is just a picture of some of the world's strongest brands. And what I'd like you to think about right now is if whether you have an emotional reaction to any of these, because a strong brand inspires emotions. So, just a quick aside here, a quick confession perhaps. For years, I was in a mixed marriage. And by that, I mean, I was PC. I owned a PC. My husband owned a Mac. And he tried to remake my PC all the time. It was literally, we had two very different viewpoints. And we had quite a few discussions, shall I say, about it. Now, when I retired from higher ed, I left my computer with them and I needed a new computer. And to maintain marital peace, I decided to buy a Mac, and we've been great ever since. But at that time, one of us looking at Apple or at Microsoft at that logo would have had a very emotional reaction to it. So, that's one way to think about it. Think about Coca-Cola. People are adamantly loyal to their cola. Whether it's the new Coke, remember when Coca-Cola tried to rebrand as the new Coke, it went nowhere. Or whether they're Pepsi lovers, or I think is there still an RC Cola? I don't know. But anyway, people are loyal to their cola. And if they walk into a restaurant and they are absolutely committed to the Pepsi camp, they are not going to be happy if they see that the only choice is Coke, and vice versa. So brands often bring out an emotional reaction. How do you feel about Facebook versus how you feel about LinkedIn? How you feel about Marlboro? That could be tied into how you feel about smoking. So all of these things are capable of evoking a strong emotion. Now, I wanted to just talk for a minute about the difference between a brand and a commodity, because very often the easiest way to understand what something is by understanding what it is not. I learned this as a seventh grade English teacher. So a commodity is something that we deal with that is a thing. Commodities are things like coffee and tea and pork bellies and oil. All these things that are traded, okay? But a commodity is generic. It doesn't have a logo or a brand or anything like that with it. When we go into a grocery store that has a big bin of coffee beans that we can choose from, we have a choice. We can reach over and get one that has a brand on the front of it, or we can just get the generic kind the grocery store sells. And which one do you think you would pay more for? The commodity, right? You are always going to pay more for Starbucks Mermaid. She just commands a bigger price, right? And she is easily recognizable. They chose a green that is kind of tied in with the the whole ecological move and environmental move. And the mermaid brings in some whimsy. I mean, it's a very strong and very powerful brand, and it brings about a lot um, of loyalty. And if you think about it, I don't know if you've tried this recently, but we have local coffee shops. Have you gone and tried buying a cup of coffee in one of your local shops and then going to Starbucks and buying the same thing? Guess where you're going to pay more, right? But you're not just paying for Starbucks coffee. You're paying for that brand, for that image that they have painted in all our heads. Starbucks is cool. And Starbucks started out as a place where people met on their way to work or between jobs or wherever they were going. So Starbucks is definitely a brand versus a commodity. Okay, so why do we talk about personal branding? And what is the process that we follow? Well, we follow a three-stage process to get to that brand statement, which is, remember, your unique promise of value. So the first stage is extract. And by extract, I mean that we are going to unearth your brand in that stage. Because guess what? This may be good news, this may be bad news. You already have a brand. Yeah, someone said, and I wish I knew who it was, I would go back and find it, that your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. That's pretty close. It's your reputation. So your professional or personal brand is your professional reputation. And I want you to always keep in mind that LinkedIn regards your promoting your professional reputation or your professional brand on LinkedIn as one of the 4 keys to being successful at selling on LinkedIn. So you want to be clear on your brand. The second part is express, and that's where you're communicating your brand. So that's all about that content marketing. That's about our profile. What are you going to put up there for people to see about your brand? Because you want them, when they land on your profile, to immediately say to themselves, my gosh, I'm in the right place. Or, this one isn't for me. Either one is okay, because powerful brands have a really unique characteristic about them. And that is that they repel as strongly as they attract. So, your brand, if you have a branded profile, a powerfully branded profile, when you look on that, you should be able to see that most of the people coming to your profile are coming because of your brand. Now, how can you figure that out? Well, on your LinkedIn profile, if you scroll down to your dashboard, it has a place that says profile reviews. Now, if you have the free LinkedIn, I think you can only see who looked at it yesterday and today, or yesterday and tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but yesterday and today. So you can't get a whole lot. If you have Sales Navigator or one of the other premium ones, you can see up to a year of who's visited your profile, or how many people have anyway, in the companies and all of that. But it's a really good thing for you to look at, so you know whether you're attracting the right people or not. And if not, then it's time to tweak your brand, right? So that they do know who you are and they are coming to you for the right reason. And then finally, the last piece is exude. And that is aligning your brand environment, everything that has to do with your brand, having them all in alignment. So we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. What I want you to remember about your brand is that, unlike when you're looking at a magazine and you see an article or something that you can purchase, it's flat, right? It's just in that single dimension. You look at it, there is no depth to it. Now compare that to what happens when you're watching a commercial on TV, or something that popped up on your laptop, or you're even listening to something on the radio. That has more than one dimension. You are not being promoted, or you are not being depicted as a picture on a sheet of paper that is flat. You are there in all those gorgeous, rich dimensions and characteristics that make you you. So in order to be yourself in 3D, in order to be yourself fully branded, you want your brand to apply to you as you are in work, in life, and in the world. So your brand should be the same whether you are at the church picnic, or you are at a soccer game, or you are working with a client. You are always the same person. And you know what? That is so much easier. I think it was Anne Morrow Lindbergh who said the most exhausting thing you can be is inauthentic. And if as a kid you were like me, well, maybe you weren't. I hope you weren't. But if you were, you probably told a few fibs. And the thing about telling a fib is that once you tell it once, you have to remember it forever, because people will catch you at it. So be yourself in 3 dimensions. So let's look at the first piece, extract. Now remember, we just defined it as a brand as your unique promise of value. So unique has to do with your peers, your colleagues. Who else is operating in the same space or playing in the same sandbox? Who has the same area of expertise that you do? If you look up people who do personal branding, or you look up LinkedIn experts on LinkedIn, you're going to find thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. But that doesn't mean that I can't be there. I'm different than those other people. And so that's my brand. That's what makes me unique. Now, it's also a promise because it's authentically you, and it's what you always deliver. You are always the same person. And finally, it's a value because it's a value to your target audience. And if you take nothing else away from this today, take that you need to know what is valuable to your target audience. And what is valuable to them is what is relevant to their challenges and their promises. The things that are keeping them up at night are the things that make it of value. So just remember, if you send somebody a free gift, if you connect with someone on LinkedIn and then you immediately send them a free gift, you're making an assumption about them. You are assuming that because they are who they say they are, or we hope they are, they usually are on LinkedIn, and because they have accepted your invitation, that they want your free gift. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe that's not why they connected with you. I'm connecting with a whole lot of people in digital marketing right now because I'm going to be doing the Digital Marketing Summit for people who do digital marketing. So I'm connecting with people that I don't have any intention of having as clients, that I know probably won't be clients, but I'm connecting with them for a different reason. So if they accept my invitation and I assume that they want to learn about personal branding or LinkedIn, I could be very wrong, and I could be sending them something that they're going to think of as spam. And aren't we all used to getting spammed on LinkedIn? So don't contribute to the spam. Connect with someone, and then when you write back to them, say something like, hey, thanks for connecting. I really like to offer something of value to my new connections. And one of the most valuable things I can think of to offer you is introductions to people that I know in my network. So could you write back and tell me who would make a good referral for you? Bam, I'd accept that invitation in a second. So that's something that's of value, and you're not making an assumption about them. Okay, so remember, I'm going to go back for just a second if it'll let me. Yeah. So remember, we're defining a brand as your unique promise of value. So it's unique. Whoop, going in the wrong direction. It's unique because it's your promise, or it's your promise because it's about authenticity. It is who you are, authentic. Come on, Dumont, authentically, and how you show up. So that every time you interact with someone, whether it's interacting with somebody, like I said, at church, or whether it's at the PTA meeting, or if they have PTA meetings where you live, or whether it's working with a client, you are still authentically you. You aren't one person one day and one the next. I don't know how many of you have worked a lot in industry or worked a lot of different kinds of positions, but if you have, you may have had the experience of feeling like you have to leave your personality on the peg outside the door because you won't fit in if people really know who you are. Well, that doesn't feel very good, does it? So we really want to be authentic. And authenticity is measured in two ways. One, how we look at ourselves, and the second, how other people look at us and see us. So we want our internal perspective of who we are authentically and what makes up our brand, and then we want feedback from others. Okay, so when we look at introspection, what are some of the things that we need to know? Well, we need to understand our goals. If you don't understand your business goals, then being on LinkedIn, and no matter how hard you work at it, is not going to work for you because you're not addressing your business goals. If your goal is to get on more stages this year because you really want to enhance your professional brand and you want to start selling your book on stage next year, your goals on LinkedIn are a whole lot different than if you're trying to find people in your local neighborhood who will come to your fitness center. Okay, different strategy, different goals, different strategies. You also want to be clear on your values and passions. When I say values, I'm not talking about situational values. When our children are babies, if somebody asks us what we value, we might say a good night's sleep, right? That's huge. But as we get older, well, we might say that as we get older too. But our values, the values that I'm talking about, are our core values. A core value would be loving children or loving mankind or believing in equality or that every child has a right to grow up in a loving home. Those are values, okay? Those are the ones I'm talking about, the things that are guidelines for you. You do not change these, okay? We're also talking about passions or interests. What is it that makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Or if you're a slow riser, what makes you crawl out of bed in the morning? But what really fires you up? That's part of your brand. And what are your strengths and skills? When we talk about strengths, what are your superpowers? What do you do better than that other 100,000 people with your same job title? Because you're unique and you have different strengths and skills. So all of those are part of your brand. When you think about goals, well, what role do you want next? Make that a headline. And I'm not going to go a great deal into headlines today, except that to say we're going to be looking at brand statements, and that has everything to do with your LinkedIn headlines. So we will be talking about it. Another thing that you can do when you're trying to establish your professional brand is to identify your top 5 values or uncover your top 3 passions. And you also want to know what people think about you, right? So there are a number of ways you can do this. And I'm not here to sell you anything today, okay? So I'm showing you right now one way. Remember, I also told you at the very beginning that I have a free personal branding toolkit that you can download, so that can help you too. But the whole point of the personal branding survey, which was developed by William Arruda and is really a powerful instrument, is that it gives you the opportunity to look inward and then to assess external perceptions. So you would take this survey, which asks you all kinds of questions that are related to your brand. You would take it and then you would send it out to 25 to 30 to 35 people that you know in all different walks of life. You don't want just your ex-clients or current clients. You want your family, you want your friends, you want your old mentor, you want your business coach, you want people who know your friends, people who know you in all different ways, because what that does is it gives you a richer image of who you are, because people will reply. And because this branding survey they reply anonymously. They will absolutely tell you the truth. But here's the thing. I've had clients who didn't want to do this because they said, oh my God, I'm going to let 30 people tell me what they like or don't like about me. It doesn't work that way. This is a branding survey. We're trying to find your most marketable attributes. So there are no places for bad comments, okay? They're only going to tell you how great you are. And there are a couple of projective exercises that are just fun. Like if they were doing, well, I have done it many times. One of the questions might be, if Dumont was a cereal, what kind of cereal would she be? And you'd be amazed at some of the answers. But anyway, so this is one way that you can do it. If you would like to order the Reach Personal Branding Survey, you can order it online, but you can also order it through me for $100 less. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just letting you know that you can get it for less if you want to, and you can contact me on LinkedIn to find out how to do that. But this is a great instrument, and it gives you a lot of really great feedback. Okay, so what are some of those things that we're looking at? We're looking at your superpowers, right? And we're looking at all those things that I talked about, like your passions and your values and all of those things. And I have questions about those in your downloadable personal branding toolkit too. It's not as scientifically accurate as the survey is, because Williams tested this and had it, authenticated as a strong merit, as a reliable survey. It does measure what it says it does. So it's a great instrument. Okay, the second part that we talked about was value, or what we're saying here is what makes you compelling. That has everything to do with relevance. And remember, I was talking about your target audience. Is this something that's relevant to them or is it not? And one way to find out about these things is to follow some of the decision makers and influencers on LinkedIn who are your competitors, because there are all kinds of advantages to those. And if you come back in a couple of weeks, I'll show you one really cool one. But you want to know how they describe themselves. You're not going to copy what they said, but you want to know how they describe themselves, who follows them, and what some of the key words are that they're using. So there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to make sure that in every interaction you have with your target audience, you are offering value, whether that's a piece of content you're putting out as a post or whether it's in a message that you send them. Make it an absolute requirement for everything that you do. You will see a change very shortly. Okay, so in order to be relevant, you have to be absolutely clear on your target audience, or you can't focus your strategies to get them. And to do that, you can map out your target audience, starting with you in the center, and then go in these concentric circles, your family and friends, your neighbors, and friends of friends, the people who live in your city, but you have no idea who they are. All of those are part of your target audience. Okay, and then finally, remember we said a brand is your unique promise of value. Well, it's unique because it differentiates you from all those other people who are playing in the same sandbox you are. Okay, they either have the same field of expertise or they're in the same industry. Whichever, it doesn't matter, because you're going to know what you have in common with them. So what are the basic qualifications for someone in that field, and then what makes you different than all the other people. So you want to know what you have in common, and that can be a source of keywords and attributes and all kinds of things. And then you want to know what makes you different. And that difference doesn't have to be something ground or earth shattering. That difference may be your sense of humor. That difference may be the program that you have. Maybe you have an 8-week program and everyone else has a 12-week program. And so people can finish yours faster. Or maybe you have a particular area of expertise. Maybe you're in personal branding, but you specialize in the chemical industries. Okay. So, or chemical related industries, polymers, whatever. So what differentiates you in that case is that you have actually drilled down. Well, it's not going to be your industry. It's going to be within your industry. Perhaps you're a personal brand strategist who works with chemical companies and specializes in the polymer industry. So you're getting much more unique. Okay, so when we're talking about that reaction, again, we're talking about just some differences, not huge differences. If you think of the difference between MasterCard, Visa, and American Express, okay, they all do basically the same thing, right? They all let you get money or reserve something without actually paying cash. But from there, they differ. 2 of these cards allow you to carry a balance. Now, you pay interest on that balance, but you can carry a balance. Whereas in American Express, you pay it all off at one time. They're used for different things. They're often accepted in different places, but they all have one thing in common, and that's the way that you use them. Okay. Now, I wanted to talk just a few minutes about your brand statement. Now, those of you who have, and I'm sure most of us have, ever looked for a job, have heard of an elevator pitch. And if you didn't, let me enlighten you. Your elevator pitch, this is a concept that came from Madison Avenue, which was known for all the big advertising agencies. And your elevator pitch was supposed to be the pitch that you could make, the explanation of who you are, the introduction as to who you are and your qualifications you could make that in the time it took an elevator to descend from the 10th floor to the first floor. It was your 10-second elevator pitch or 30-second or whatever it was. It was from the 10th floor to the first floor. And I used to think, because I used to teach students how to do these, and I would try and teach them how to do it in a way that was conversational. Because the last thing that any of us want is to get on an elevator and have someone pitch us right away. If they get into the conversation with us, that's great. We want to know more about them. We're going to ask more about them. But if the minute the doors close, they're going, "Hi, I'm Dawn Owen. I'm an accounting major and I have a 4.0 and I'm in these groups and these student associations and I graduate this December and you should hire me because, oh, did I say that I have a 4.0 GPA?" When that elevator door opens, that person's going to be out the door and running for their lives. People don't want to be preached at, right? Do you want to be preached at? No. So what I'm going to teach you here is how to do a personal brand statement, but one that's simple and one that you can work into a conversation and they won't feel like they've just been pitched. Okay. So let's do that. There are 3 versions I'm going to show you of this, but I'm going to also, when I send out the replay, I'm going to include one more piece. So let me go into that in a minute. Your personal brand statement is a 1-sentence statement. 1 sentence, yeah, is a statement that's 1 sentence long, and it talks about your superpowers or your strengths, who you help, and how you help them, what the results are. So in these, I've included 3 different versions. One is I use my blank to blank for blank. That sounds faintly dirty. But I could say I use my knowledge of LinkedIn and personal branding to build LinkedIn lead generation systems for coaches, consultants, and trainers. Or I could say, I could use any of those words. So let me use I support coaches, consultants, and trainers by creating powerful lead generation systems using and I left that out of there. I'm sorry, using my knowledge of LinkedIn and personal branding. Or I could say leveraging my knowledge and experience with personal branding, I deliver lead generation systems to coaches and consultants who want more clients. Excuse me. The main thing here, excuse me, uh-oh. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. The main thing I want you to remember is you want to list something about your strengths, you want to talk about the results, and you want to talk about who you help. So your strengths, your niche, and the results. And I'm going to send you a sheet with the replay that has different versions of this. Okay, 3 simple rules for your personal brand statement. Can only be 1 sentence long, and you saw those were pretty short. It's easily understood by a 12-year-old or a 7th grader. And since I used to teach 7th grade English, this makes inherent sense to me. 7th graders are really smart. And if they have to ask you what your brand means after you've told them, you need to work on it. And then finally, it should be simple enough that you can recite it from memory. Okay? Pretty easy. So let me give you just a couple of examples. Sorry about that. Here's an example. And this was done, the person who did this had taken the 360 reach. And what they were doing was they were creating their brand statement using these attributes that the 360 reach identified. So they learned that people saw them as having empathy, as being leader-like, creative, and having high energy. So this personal brand statement says, through my natural enthusiasm and my empathy for others, I inspire R&D professionals to develop innovative products in biotechnology. Okay, so that's got strengths, enthusiasm, and empathy. It's got results, innovative products in biotechnology, and it's got her target audience, R&D professionals. All done. Here's another one. This person was told that she was calming, philanthropic, forward-thinking, and caring. And this is her personal brand statement. I deliver Zen-like webinars. I love that. And online learning programs to stressed out, overworked police officers, firemen, and EMT workers to help them identify, manage, and reduce stress. Yes, I want that person in my corner. And that definitely, we can see calming as Zen-like, describing her audience as stressed out people. I mean, she's very, very clear on who her audience is, and she's very clear on the results. Okay, I am going to skip through this so that I can make sure I can get to this last piece, but I'll stay on if people have questions. Exude is the final piece. And remember, I said exude is where we align our personal brand elements. So when you're thinking about this, I want you to think about all the different elements of your brand environment. If you work out of an office, what does your office look like? Mine has a certain appearance that I want to project in my office. What does your logo look like? Maybe this is your logo. Brand? Well, probably not, but if it were, that might be it. What is your brand color? What does your font look like? All of those things are part of your brand elements. So when you're thinking about your brand, and I'm going to drop this button because I don't think you can see this. Hold on. No, you really can't see it very well, but you can see it. I will send you this link too. But this is the link to what I'm showing you right here is a link to a video on YouTube that talks about your brand color. And your brand color is really, really important because remember, color evokes emotions. So if your brand color is blue, people see you as trustworthy, honest, knowledgeable, dependable, all of those kinds of things. Think of IBM was for years known as Big Blue, and banks banks use blue a lot in their signs, or if they don't have blue very often, they have red, which indicates passion. So and drive and all those kinds of things, a lot of energy. Now, green is emotionally soothing. A lot of counselors and educators use green. Yellow is just what it sounds like. It is sunshine. It is bringing sunshine into people's lives, making them happy. That's yellow. Orange is about energy. Red has a lot of energy, but it's that passion. Orange just brings that zest and that let's get it done and let's go, gang. That's orange. And then finally, purple often means royalty or religion. And one person who used purple a lot, if you are from the United States, you may recognize the name Prince. Prince was not only a classically educated recording artist who played umpteen different instruments, he was also a Jehovah's Witness and went out witnessing for his faith on weekends. So just a little aside there. Okay. All right. It won't show the brand attributes on that slide, so I just went straight here. Thank you for sticking around, and I am going to put up here. That's the link to your LinkedIn toolkit, but I'm also going to drop it in the chat for those of you who are live in case you want to get it. Now, hold on. Okay, so it's an error occurred. Oh, that's because it's looking at Facebook, I think. Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, it's showing me the error message below that. Okay, so what's included in this toolkit is a set of questions about personal branding, information on how to do your and information on how to do your brand statement. And when I send out the replay, I'm also going to send you a sheet that has examples of brand statements. So let me stop sharing. Okay, there y'all are. Hey, everyone. I hope you all got a lot of information out of today. If you still have questions and I did not answer them, you can send them to me at my email. That is, I'm going to put that in the comments, dumont@dumontowen.com. You can email me. Did it do it? Wait a minute. Yeah, there. Well, it's saying there was an error, so you may not be able to see that. I don't know. Anyway, it's dumont@dumontowen.com. Oh, we're seeing everybody's comments. Okay, thank you, thank you, Purvi. Sorry about that, Corinne. Everybody's getting to see your screens, so it's still showing up. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, Corinne and everyone else, I really enjoyed today. I really enjoyed having you on. And I will be sending you all the follow-up, including the PDF of this presentation. So thank you. And thank you, Janine. Thank you, Purvi. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.